Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. We're working to ensure that the digital euro coexists with cash. We have got that story plus Duterte due time, but first, won't someone think of my democracy? Romania, the first post-election democracy? A fantastic piece from offguardian.org. In December 2024, Romania court canceled the second round of planned presidential election and annulled, like it was a marriage, the completed first round, citing totally theoretical Russian interference. This caused massive protests in Romania, as you might imagine. The first round had been won by right-winger Colin Georgescu, following a social media-based campaign, and he was predicted to quite easily win the second round as well. The Romanian opposition denied a likely victory, took their cause to the European Court of Human Rights. Then, on March 6th, just this past week, the ECHR threw the case out. Didn't even have to hear it, just boom, threw the case out. Apparently, the Romanian courts were perfectly within their rights to simply indefinitely postpone their election on the basis of unproven allegations, and all those people who already voted and want to vote again and again, you guys can go to hell. This is the ECHR, which lectures the world on rights and democratic norms on the regular, and everybody's apparently just fine with it. It's rather crazy. Imagine the outrage. Again, this is always the interesting question to pose. Imagine if it were George Soros doing all these things that Elon's doing with the other team. Imagine if Putin or Trump had suddenly canceled elections. They looked like they were losing because, it doesn't look like it's going to be fair. Anyway, now, Georgescu has been arrested and his supporters, of course, taken to the streets while the Romanian government is set to crack down on conspiracy theories and other classic misinformation. Mass protests erupt across Romania as Georgescu's presidential candidacy rejection sparks international condemnation. That one from Zero Hedge. This anti-election narrative kind of growing outside of Romania as well. Ukraine, of course, hadn't had any elections in years either. They got their sketch comedian. They also outlawed certain political parties, religions, and television channels. Meanwhile, laundering billions of dollars, pounds, euros through the Ukrainian government to boost the bottom line of arms manufacturers is considered defending democracy. Zelensky must prepare elections and cede a little bit of territory to end the war, so says the DJ Trump administration. And yes, what a surprise. The U.S. will resume Ukraine military aid and the intelligence as Kiev approves a ceasefire. But this sort of continues. Last month, former EU chairman Thierry Breton remarked that they had already had to cancel the Romanian elections and might have to do the same in Germany. As it happens, the correct side in Germany won, so those must not have been rigged at all. To a smaller extent, 9 local elections across the UK had been postponed for at least a year for unknown reasons. Meanwhile, up in Snow, Mexico, central bankster Mark Carney wins race to replace Trudeau as Canada's prime minister. So, as I have noted on my morning show, to warn folks, be wary of fake Mark Carney images showing him and Ghislaine and Epstein. You gotta share the real Carney photographs of him with Ghislaine Maxwell. The ones that his campaign says, we're not friends. And I don't know about you, James, as I joked on my show this morning, I don't know if I have a ton of pictures of me hanging out with people that aren't my friends. Meet Mark Carney, Canada's next unelected prime minister. James, so is it the way in which, as we've been talking about for the last couple of months, is it the way in which Trudeau resigned that sort of set up this bit of unelected jiggery pokery?
Yes, in a sense, absolutely. Although, I guess the way that Trudeau resigned isn't all that unusual for a parliamentary democracy. And I realize parliamentary democracy is difficult to parse for people who do not live in a parliamentary democracy because it's very different. But yeah, I mean, the prime minister is not even a constitutionally outlined position. It's just kind of the way that it's developed. Well, okay, the leader of the party that gets the most votes will be the prime minister, but that's not even an executive in the same way that the president of the US is an executive. It's a very, very different type of position. So it's not unusual for a prime minister who loses the confidence of the House to resign and in elections to come about as a result of that. I mean, think of Brian Mulroney on his way out the door. Okay, I'm not going to win this election, so they get in Kim Campbell to lose the election for them. That kind of thing. But But because of that, and because the prime minister is not an elected position, people don't vote for prime minister. No, they vote for parties, and the party decides who will be the leader, and the leader of the party with the most seats will be the prime minister. Because of that interesting system, it's theoretically possible to get someone who has never been elected, never even run for office, to be the Prime Minister of Canada. So as Kit Knightley rightly points out in his article that we're linking to there, in fact, not only has Carney never won any elected office at any level of government, he's never even run before. He will be the first Canadian Prime Minister to have never held a seat in the House of Commons. So yeah, it's an interesting set of events that have led us to this point. And why? Why is Carney being set up as the golden boy? Oh, that's right, because he started as an executive at Goldman Sachs, moved to Bank of Canada, Bank of England, in the meantime, Bank for International Settlements, the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg attendee, Royal Institute for International Affairs. He was just appointed as a chairman at the Chatham House. Craziness, and UN climate envoy. I mean, yeah, he's got the credentials to be the most globalist, and in a way much more disturbing than Trudeau, because Trudeau was just the Nepo baby who got everything that he had because he had his last name was Trudeau. That was why he had a political career at all, and he was driven more by vanity and narcissism, and he was a drama teacher, a drama kid at heart, and was not really a serious politician. He might have been, I don't think he was willfully, actively malevolent in a calculating sense. He was just an idiot who kind of got led along, I think. But Carney is really actively malevolent.
We've had some of those dummies be president here in America as well.
It happens.
How did this stupid kid, Nepo baby, become president?
Exactly right. So anyway, the point is, obviously, Carney, in any other time frame of human history, this would have been one of those, okay, Trudeau out the door right before the next selection. Carney's going to get swept away at the next election. It doesn't really even matter. It'll be a few months or whatever. But no, now with the whole trade war things and Canadians rallying around, suddenly the political calculation that the Liberals were going to get absolutely decimated at the next election. Now people are like, well, I don't know. Maybe, he's going to be strong against Trump or whatever. So who cares? But actually, isn't all of this kind of the point of this story with Romania and Ukraine and Canada and everywhere else? Is what is democracy anyway? The will of the people, right? No, selections can be rigged in many, many different ways, not just at the ballot box, although there too, obviously. But if you vote the wrong way, they can just say, actually, like in Romania, actually, if we count the votes, if we actually do have, that would be anti-democratic because reasons. So we will not even listen to your appeal with regards to that stuff. And as long as the people go along with it, as long as they just kind of go, oh, well, what are you going to do? Then it'll happen. So craziness all around. But I think this gets to the heart of what democracy really is. It is a front and a cover for the oligarchy that has ruled throughout every era of human history, ours not accepted.
One of my favorite ways to expose sort of the magic words of democracy, now this only works for folks here in the States, is to say, because people will immediately get it, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the democracy for... Oh, wait, it says republic. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic, not a mob-ruled democracy. Isn't it interesting, though, James, they're trying to sell Mark Carney to, of course, most of the people who are like, who's this guy? He's a political outsider. He's never held elected office, but as you just rattled off his 20 different international deep state bankster associations, yeah, he's a political insider par excellence. Also, I was going to throw in the comment about those memes and things making their rounds as another reminder, always spell check your memes, you bunch of savages. You're not going to change people's minds if they're like, dummy can't even spell. That's how we get going on New World Next Week, episode 584. It is a real New World Next Week episode. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte arrested on ICC warrant. Grabbing this from Al Jazeera. And again, we always include everything we talk about down in the show notes. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has been arrested on a warrant issued by the International Criminal Court, which is investigating allegations that crimes against humanity were committed during his so-called war on drugs. Duterte, taken into custody at Manila International Airport upon his arrival from Hong Kong, this according to the Philippine government, which received the ICC request via Interpol, the noted international police agency. Upon his arrival, the Prosecutor General served the ICC notification for an arrest warrant to the former president for the crimes against humanity, the government said in a statement. He is now in the custody of authorities. Later, Duterte was seen boarding a jet in Manila, according to a live Facebook video posted by a retired police general. Thanks, guy. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. No country has the monopoly on idiot Nepo babies taking the reins of the presidency, James. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. told the news media that the plane, is that bong bong? The plane carrying Duterte took off at 1:03 p.m. bound for The Hague. Mr. Duterte was arrested in compliance with our commitments to Interpol. Interpol asked for help and we obliged because we have commitments to the Interpol which we have to fulfill. Did I mention we have commitments to Interpol? The allegations against Duterte are related to his brutal anti-drugs drive, which he ran during his time in office, pretty much parallel to DJ Trump 2016 to 2022. Suspects were deprived of due process under the law, and thousands of people, including children, died. This according to the complaint. The former president questioned the legality of the arrest, always just maintaining just this, almost Mussolini-level just bluster and I am the best, and maybe it's just aging, James. But he looks thin, James. It's rough when you're not a tyrant anymore. You get hungry sometimes. Rodrigo Duterte, Philippine ex-president, is arrested on ICC warrant, or as our buddy Brock West noted in our chat, wow, cool. Now do Bibi Netanyahu. James, I followed this guy. You might recall me talking about this dude a lot. I followed him a lot on my Morning Monarchy. It seemed so wild and out of control to me. But now they'll slap him on the wrist after it's too late to save anyone's lives. Yeah, James.
Yeah, exactly right. And I did write something about Duterte back in his initial push for, essentially death squads, kill anyone that's suspected of drugs, and all of the crazy authoritarian bark-raving lunacy that he implemented and was reveling in and delighting over. So I certainly have no sympathy for a madman like that. And look at the way he responded to the lockdowns and the scamdemic and all of that. Absolute authoritarian garbage. But the interesting part of this is, does the International Criminal Court now have jurisdiction to just swoop in and literally take leaders out of their own countries and fly them to The Hague? Because the whole point is they don't have any teeth. It's all has to do with cooperation. For example, isn't there an arrest warrant for Putin right now? But they can't do anything about it because they can't go in and grab him and bring him to The Hague. So how did this happen? Of course, it happened with the active collaboration of the current Philippines government. So if people want because there is a big internal Filipino story here with regards to Filipino politics, I will throw in a link to Duterte arrest raises stakes in clash for control of Philippines, which goes into the drama taking place right now between the aforementioned Marcos, who I am convinced is Bong Bong, so that distracts people from the fact that, yes, this is literally the son of Ferdinand Marcos, who is the current president. And the clash that he's having with Duterte is it his daughter? Whatever, who's vice president. There's some crazy internal Filipino politics that are happening here. Anyway, that's why it's okay, guys, come in and take Rodrigo Duterte away. So they did. If people want to know about the ICC and the ICJ and The Hague and what it is and how it functions, what it's about, I will point, not for the first and not for the last time, to some of the work that I've done on that in the past, including a podcast I did over a decade ago on international law. I wrote an article on Victor's Justice, the truth about the International Criminal Court, and on the note of why not, do Bibi next, I did write an article a couple of years ago, the ICC wants to start arresting politicians. I think that's a great idea, in which I list some of the other politicians that hey, why don't we start rounding up some of the real war criminals? Anyway, yeah, that's how that rolls. And I will just throw in the other related, which I think is very relevant, global research on now it's the 19th anniversary of the death of Slobodan Milosevic at The Hague, is publishing an article on was Milosevic poisoned? And there's an interesting story there, and who knows what will happen to Duterte, whether he gets found guilty or not, or whatever happens in whatever kangaroo court, they could just kill him while he's in jail. Why not?
Here's the suicide pill. We'll let you take it on the stand. It'll be amazing coverage. Imagine, but yeah, I like the idea too. Imagine being able now to arrest Nixon and Carter and Gerald Ford and Bush and Clinton and Bush and Obama, for their drug war here in the States.
Maybe not Carter anymore. Maybe not Nixon.
No, we're not going to let death stop us. See what Doge is doing. We'll come and dig
Kissinger's bones up. You can still get him.
One of the differences that I always noticed about Duterte is that it wasn't. You'll always hear your leaders say, we got to get the dealers. We got to get it at the source. Duterte didn't care. If you'd ever saw drugs or thought about doing drugs, he'd want to knock all of you out. Crazy. And you did remind me, this was all coming back to me as we were going over this story. Isn't Duterte's daughter now in the administration? She has how this came out, or was it leaked on purpose? I don't know. If I'm killed, whack all the Marcos. Yeah. That's what she said. It's on the record. It is open. If I'm dead, I have orders for you guys to go kill all Ferdinand Marcos family. Whew. We're having fun here this week on New World Next Week 584. Again, it's a new world next week, not just a new America this week. As we close with some crypto news, ECB President Christine Lagarde targets October to finish the digital euro. That's October 2025. The European Central Bank, the ECB, plans to launch the digital euro with the testing phase set to end by this October 2025. ECB President Christine Lagarde, and I do have video of her talking about this, included in the show notes. Her team working with stakeholders to move the project forward despite concerns from lawmakers and the public. You could have AI write articles about these. And there's some weak defense that tries to push back and blah, blah, blah. Lagarde confirmed at the press conference on March 6th that the ECB aims to complete the preparation phase by October. This phase, which started November 2023, involves testing, discussions with stakeholders, and the creation of a rule book for the digital currency. The European Union is looking to launch the digital euro, our central bank digital currency, CBDC, by October this year, Lagarde said during the conference, adding, "We are working to ensure that the digital euro coexists with cash, addressing privacy concerns by making it pseudonymous and cash-like in nature." The ECB believes the digital euro will improve payment efficiency and provide a secure government-backed alternative to private digital payment methods that those terrorists and icky people use. Board members Fabio Panetta and his successor Piero Cipollone are leading efforts to accelerate progress and secure support from the European Parliament, the European Council, the European Commission, and Satan. Despite Lagarde's confidence, some EU lawmakers remain doubtful. A Reuters report from March 10th, unconfirmed if the article was funded by the UK government or not, suggests many question the feasibility and, James, as we often ask on this show, the necessity of a CBDC. What problem is this solving? Oh, you don't think you're getting enough taxes off of the tax cattle. Concerns include government overreach, data privacy, and the challenge of integrating the digital euro into the financial system. I got several links for you. A 2025 overview of what you need to know about the digital euro from Forbes. That video of Lagarde reporting the digital euro will launch in October. That's on that site X. And I've got a link to the 2023 phase. ECB President Christine Lagarde reveals plans to launch digital euro CBDC in October. So reported April 6, 2023, and also she's a convicted financial criminal. Christine Lagarde, IMF chief, convicted over payout, December 20th, 2016. We were all distracted with Orange Mans here in the States. But James, as was said in my chat the morning we talked about this new digital currency, it's not the DC part I'm worried about so much as the CB part.
Interesting. Well, let's spell that out for people because we're using a lot of acronyms here. So, of course, CBDC, central bank digital currency. So the DC part, digital currency, versus the CB part, the central bank part. You know what? I'm going to disagree with that because I think part of what is happening here is in the totalitarianish, socialist utopias like in Europe, it's going to be a CBDC. It is going to be centrally bank administered, and it is going to act in the ways that, for example, of course, Augustin Carstens was talking about years ago. We can track every single transaction, and we can allow or disallow it in real time. Oh, wonderful. So, yes, we should very much be concerned about CBDCs. I think we should also be concerned about PBDCs, private bank digital currencies, because in the land of the free and the home of the brave in America and other bastions of democracy, we're going to see the private bank version of this. Don't worry. Guys, we're passing laws. The central bank won't have the Fed will have nothing to do with this. It'll totally be private banks that'll be operating it. But the entire point of, for example, Operation Choke Point 2.0, that I was outlining a few years ago and that suddenly got back into the news cycle here, and Operation Choke Point 1.0, was that, no, the U.S. government, whoever is in charge of that government, can use the FDIC and regulatory bodies to lean on the banks to do things for them, like, for example, debank a bunch of people they don't like just because they don't like them. And it's exactly the same with a PBDC system. The private banks will be beholden to the U.S. government anyway. They don't need a central bank digital currency in order for the in fact, it might even be easier because of the Fed independence, right? But there's no such thing with a regulatory oversight over the banks. So that, for example, Trump decides, you know what, we're going to get rid of all those anti-Semites who are protesting against Israel. We'll take them off of their digital currencies and can use the power of the U.S. federal government to lean on the banks to do that for him. Regardless, CBDC or PBDC, it can be done. So I think the real point is, yes, there is such a thing as digital currency that would be a neutral arbiter of transactions, but that ain't this. That ain't what they're bringing in. That ain't the system that we're operating in right now. And I think people need to be extremely concerned about this. This could be the kind of the final fight for ultimate control, because the system of control for centuries now has been the central banks and the way that they control the monetary paradigm under which we operate, which dictates everything that happens in the economy. And if they can finally, utterly screw that down and take total control over it, good luck resisting that. It's going to be a million times harder. So I think we need to be concerned about this, CBDC or PBDC.
The ads are already on sports commercial breaks, James. You've been hearing a lot about digital currencies, but it seems like that's what creepy weirdos do. You should use our coin because it's secure and isn't crypto at all. In related news, Dow plunged nearly 900 points this week as the Nasdaq is in correction territory as recession fears build because Orange Man didn't say there won't be a recession. So everybody panicked. That is New World Next Week, episode 584, a real globe-trotting New World Next Week episode. James, we always like to wrap up these episodes by noting newworldnextweek.com is your source for Corbett Report and Monarchy gear and media, and that keeps us, as I like to say, fear-free and ad-free. You've never seen advertisements on any of our work on our combined 30-plus years of endeavors. And I always like to implore people to come check out the Media Monarchy broadcast. It's like classic radio, if you could swear on it. I play the exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes before they're published by me, before they're published by Corbett. Only me, Brock, and James have heard them, and I premiere those after my morning monarchy. That is around 10 a.m. Mountain Time here in northern New Mexico at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. But if you didn't change your clocks, I don't know what time it is. James?
Yes, indeed. Well, Arizonans and Japanese and some other people, I suppose, will be affected by that. Anyway, I hope people check it out. I think that'll do it for this week. Looking forward to doing it again.
Thanks so much, buddy. Take care.